Hello, I'm Tom Bailey, and in today's episode, I'll be getting to know Sarah Brown, who's the founder of Book of You. She's a speaker, author, and the host of the KTS Success Factor podcast. So, Sarah, hello, and a very warm welcome to today's episode.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
I really appreciate you coming along. And whereabouts are you based right now?
Wilmington, Delaware, in the mid-Atlantic area of the US.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I'm just going to share a little bit more about you before we do get started. So, Sarah helps female professionals and entrepreneurs to get coaching support and tools they need to make career choices that will help them be happy, successful, and understood at work. She also has a PhD in psychoeducational processes and over 25 years of talent management experience. The title for today's episode is What is Self-Coaching and How Do I Do It? And Sarah's going to show us how to do that in just 7 minutes. So, question number one today is, who are your ideal clients?
My ideal client is a female entrepreneur or solopreneur.
Fantastic. Nice and succinct, which I love. And what is the biggest challenge that they typically face?
She faces the challenge of staying on track to achieve big goals for her business because she is what we call an only or a lonely. She's at the top of a business. She has few peers and very little support and mentoring to help her figure out how to move her business forward.
Yep, completely understood. And I guess it can be quite isolating up there, but what other impact can that have on her or the business?
Well, first thing is she doesn't develop any big goals because she doesn't know what will move the business forward,
Yep.
or she just can't figure it out, or she flounders and waffles on taking any action and making a commitment to it, or she takes action, but she's doing it while all bundled up with anxiety and fear, which winds up being totally ineffective action, or she gets completely stopped when she hits that first obstacle.
Yeah, completely understood. So not the ideal place to be. So what advice would you give her to get started on this journey?
To recognize that she has to do it herself, but she cannot do it alone. There's a story about one of the famous presidents in the United States called Abraham Lincoln.
Mhm.
He worked on something called the Emancipation Proclamation, which was a major step forward in eliminating slavery in this country. And when he was working on that, he called a friend of his by the name of Leonard Swett to help him be a sounding board.
Mhm.
And he went up one side and down the other on what actions should I take? What should I include? What territories should be in? How far should I go in making this proclamation? When should I do it? All of this stuff. And at the end of this process, he said, "Thank you very much. I have my answer." And
Nice.
Leonard Stiff walked out of the room. And he recalled later that he had never, ever said a word. There's
Mm.
something that really happens when we take control of the process, but we do it in the presence of another human being. We make mammoth steps forward.
Fantastic. Great advice. And like you said, just having that sounding board or somebody to speak to can really help open up those loops in her brain. So given that, what do you have any valuable resources or anything that you can offer to really help people move forward?
I do. One of the resources that I have is a chapter from one of my books called Let Your Personality Be Your Career Guide, which
Mhm.
you can get at sarahebrown.com. And in this chapter, I have exercises that you can use to get in touch with who you are uniquely, what your interests are, what your strengths are, and more importantly, what your needs are. And with this information, you can start to craft goals that are unique to you and that will support you going forward. You can figure out the kinds of tasks that you need to outsource because
Mhm.
they're not in line with who you are. And more importantly, you can get in touch with the unique support that you need that's in line with your unique needs.
Incredible. Sounds extremely useful. And that's from sarahebrown.com. And I'll put the link to that in my show notes as well for you. Now, quick question onto the subject of you for a moment. And that is, what would you say is one of your greatest either mistakes or failures you've made either in life or business? And what did you learn from it?
When I was in my corporate roles, I operated for many, many years under the illusion that competence was all that mattered.
Yeah.
If I did a good job, I was going to get recognized, I was going to get promoted, and I didn't have to do the hard work of figuring out what it is I wanted asking for it and then going after and getting it. Now, I gradually learned that competence was not all that mattered and that I had to do something about it. But there was still a bit of that residual thinking when I retired and started my own business. And one of it is that I couldn't do it all myself. And there were
Yeah.
things I just flat wasn't good at, like marketing. It's
Yeah.
not in line with my unique personality. So I had to learn, A, ask for help, and B, don't do the things that I'm really not uniquely good at, outsource it or reframe it to be more in line with my personality.
Excellent. Great advice again. And the last one from me today is, what is the one question that I should have asked you that will also give some great value to our audience?
What is self-coaching? Because I
Yeah.
think that is actually what is the answer to a lot of what entrepreneurs and solopreneurs face. And by that, I mean owning your responsibility, owning the process, and owning the mechanism by which you engage with another human being. It
Mhm.
goes back to the story that I told about Abraham Lincoln. He couldn't do it alone, but he took responsibility for the process. He took responsibility for driving through it. He took responsibility for the outcomes. If you do that, that's why I call it self-coaching. You're not doing it alone, but you are doing it yourself. You
Mhm.
can hand the tools and the process to anyone who knows and cares about you, who can serve as your coach. And then you can get clear about goals. You can find ways around obstacles, and you can get the support you need to stay on track.
Amazing. Sarah, such great value from your episode today. I really appreciate you coming along and sharing your expertise with this audience.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.